So I'm showing 10:31, and we'll call this September 28th meeting of the ONCC Executive Committee to order. And the first thing to do is to approve the meeting minutes from our August 31st meeting. Is there a motion to do so?
I'll move so.
Thank you, Dennis. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay.
It's Joe.
No? Okay, and let's do the roll call vote just to make sure we're official.
Sure. Mayor Jurasek,
Yes.
Joe Nunzio,
Yes.
Dr. Cooper,
Yes.
Evan Summers,
Yes.
Dennis Ryan,
Yes.
Brian Gazer,
Yes.
Superintendent Gasol,
Yes.
and Aaron Frame.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Next on the agenda for this morning is the 9C27C outreach. So how are we doing on that?
We're good, Mayor. We're ready to go. We released our FAQs document that's available if any ONCC member would like individual outreach. I think because we're not able to do a lot of outreach in person, Jeanette and I are certainly available to do conference calls and virtual meetings like this. Jeanette, correct me if I'm wrong. To my knowledge, nobody's asked for any individual outreach, but we certainly want to train the trainer, Mayor. So we're available. The FAQs are ready to go. Those should be in your packets for Friday. We'll go over some of those. The FAA has prepared a nice video regarding changes in air traffic. It is a little complicated because the initial capabilities will be different when it opens on November 5th, which is in about 5 weeks, versus later in time. So the CDA is deferring all of the air traffic and runway questions to the FAA, and that's fine. I do think the video is good. It's about 7 minutes long, so I am going to encourage a lot of people to watch that. I found it helpful. And I think between the FAQs and the video and any individual outreach, we're good to go.
Yeah, I looked at the video and I thought it was extremely complicated. For those of us who are familiar with the topic, if we find it complicated, I can imagine other residents who are less involved on a day-to-day basis might find it even more so. So, but it is technically correct and it covers all the bases. So it's kind of what you would expect from a regulatory entity like the FAA to put out. To me, that means the FAQs are going to be really, really important. So I'm glad we're going to go over them on Friday for the full membership, and it'll be important that those go out concurrently with the video. But I know the video's out already.
Yeah, Mayor, just be aware, we scrubbed all FAQs with regard to runway utilization and air traffic so as not to have mixed messaging. So our FAQ is essentially everything else, which is the history of the OMP, sound insulation, noise impacts. So the two tools are intended to complement each other because, like I said, this runway stuff is a bit complicated. I think the short answer is that when we open this runway on November 5th, we're still in another interim condition. We've been in an interim condition from 2015 until now, but once we open 9 Center, but not 9 Right, we'll be in a different interim condition. And I think that's really why there's this little bit of complexity. But all that being said, just know that the FAQs are intended to complement the video and it is not repetitive.
Yeah, so let's just monitor the reactions of our members as their constituents contact them and go, you know, I still need more information or whatever, because that could help us in any further outreach.
Okay, sounds good.
Great, thanks. Okay, any other questions on the outreach? Okay, IGA renewal. Karen is not here, but where are we? Perhaps Aaron or?
I can take that, Madam Chairman.
Thank you.
So we have been in small group discussions with Karen and I meeting with Chicago Legal Department, CDA, and Lansing & Brown. We are in probably final review, I'd say, Aaron, of the draft IGA. I think it's coming together very well. We're cleaning up the language. We're incorporating some succession planning into that document as requested by Chairwoman Jurasek. And we should have that teed up for adoption by Chicago City Council by the end of the year, and then full adoption by the members will be by January 31st.
Okay, okay. I read the minutes that we just approved this morning of our last meeting, and we had a pretty extensive discussion there, which I'm glad are detailed in quite a bit of detail in the minutes. I think we're tackling all the right topics, and I think we've had good discussion, and you guys have good direction to keep on moving.
Yeah, I just want to just a hat tip to Chicago Legal Department. They've been very engaging with us. They've committed a lot of time to this, so I think we're getting a full, thorough review from them. So I appreciate that.
Very good, very good. Thank you. Any questions for Evan or anyone else? Okay, let's go on then to Fly Quiet Committee. I was not able to listen in on the last committee meeting, but I understand it was a good discussion. So Joe, what happened?
Oh, it was a lively discussion. I think it lasted about an hour and a half or an hour. It happened on September 22nd. Everybody was there. The things that we talked about, we had an interim Fly Quiet report for July. The main points is that the winds were mostly westerly, and the two runways that were used the most were 20 left right for departures and 10 center for arrivals. The next discussion was intersection departures, and as everybody knows, intersection departures basically means using a shorter runway in order to avoid planes intersecting with each other as they're on runways. And the report showed that Ryan had put together that I just want to get this straight. You used Max-Q when you did the study, right?
LMAX, right, correct, LMAX.
LMAX, I'm sorry. And the LMAX showed that there was a half a decibel increase in noise if you're using it in an intersecting runway. And that was important because there's always concern that if you use a shorter runway, that the people at the end of the runway will get a much greater amount of noise because the plane won't be as high in the air. But according to the study, that's almost negligible. Half a decibel is, unless you've got dog ears, I don't think you're going to hear it.
Although I wouldn't be too quick to write that off because the decibels are a logarithmic measure. So it increases by an order of magnitude with each digit, full digit increase. So just be careful not to minimize it, but a half a decibel is certainly to be preferred to 2, 3, or 4 or 5 decibels. Absolutely.
Yeah, that would definitely 3, 4, or 5 decibels would definitely be noticeable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We also talked about long runway availability. And I'll be honest with you, I'm still a little bit confused here because they seem to be available, but we don't know for sure. Aaron, is that fair to say?
Say that again, Joe.
They seem to be, we could probably use all the longer runways during Fly Quiet, but it's not for sure yet. I mean,
Well, Ryan Anderson, you jump in if I'm incorrect. I think, Joe, where we ended up was that the two center runways, the two closest to the terminals, 9 right and 10 left, will likely be classified as the long runways because of other constraints on 9 center and 10 center. Ryan, is that correct?
Well, the real takeaway is that based on the feedback we gotten from FAA, they don't have any strong concerns about designating a long runway on the north airfield, and that long runway being 9 right, 27 left, which allows us to, in some of the concepts we've been looking at with Fly Quiet 21, to isolate operations to either the north airfield or the south airfield on a schedule. So that's really the big takeaway. Can we isolate traffic to one airfield on the north or one airfield on the south? And it sounds like we can, according to us and FAA feedback. However, we still need to have some conversations with other stakeholders, including the air carriers, to make sure that they don't have any very strong concerns with that.
Can I ask a question on that? Does that give guidance on designating a long runway for if a diagonal configuration is adopted? Can we alternate and use 9 center or sorry, 9 right for the long runway.
So that's something we'll have to kind of go back and relook at with FAA, but based on their feedback, yes, it looks like we're able to use at least with one of the configurations. And when we're in crosswind weeks, the north runway, when we're in those configurations.
So then follow up to the follow up, Aaron, do we have any direction from Commissioner Ree on shutting down 10 left, 10 center at nighttime to force
Oh.
9 right?
We need to talk to the airlines first. Right? Jamie may say, we're not doing that if the airlines are going to object. So our next step is to have conversations with the airlines. I've talked to one of my managers and we're clear to initiate those conversations. So we're not quite there yet. Let me see how it goes with the airlines.
Has Commissioner Ree given that?
She
That
has
order-
not given an opinion one way or the other yet. I think we need to have an initial conversation with the airlines to figure out what is the, we need to take their temperature so that we can go back to the commissioner and present some options.
Do we have any indication on how much pushback CDA is willing to accept from the airlines, or is it just if one airline says they want to keep it available, it's open?
I would say no to one airline, right? We're going to talk to multiple airlines and get the general consensus of the group, right? We try not to run the airport according to one tenant, right? We don't try not to show favoritism in that regard, but we need to figure out, some operational things. And I think affecting change is hard, but we're willing to do that. And so again, we need to have these conversations, see how the first round goes, and then we can brief the commissioner and go from there.
Okay, just please keep in consideration that the stakeholders on this side of the aisle are very interested in being able to shut the runways down.
Okay, I understand.
Arlene, as a practical matter, depending upon what we hear from the airlines and the rest, my date of December for having have something that is submitted to the group, the main group, is still tentative now because
Sure.
we can't move ahead until we have some sort of tentative answers.
So that to me means that the airline meetings are critical path item, Aaron.
They
And
are.
whatever-
They
yeah,
are.
whatever we can do.
For us, that will be the critical path in the month of October. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Lastly, we had Fly Quiet 21 submittals from 3 groups. We had one from Elmhurst, one from Fair, and one from Ernie, who's from Park Ridge. The last date of submittal, I believe, is September 30th. Janet, have you gotten any more since those 3?
And we have, did you mention Elmhurst?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so we've got 3 so far.
Okay,
That's
Good.
fine. The next meeting is going to be October 27th. And that's the end of my report.
so the 3 submittals that we got, will Ryan and Aaron, will your teams be able to review them before the next Fly Quiet meeting so they can be discussed?
Go ahead,
Yes.
Brian.
Yeah. So our intention is for this next meeting in October now we'll be reviewing all the alternatives that have been submitted, as well as putting together the alternatives that have been discussed to date.
Mhm.
And the October meeting will be dedicated solely to reviewing all the alternatives that are out there and making any revisions to these alternatives. And as I discussed in the last Fly Quiet meeting, my intention is that be the topic for each meeting moving forward until we have a preferred alternative.
Okay, yeah, ideally, we'd winnow them down at the November meetings or very soon, so that we can start working towards that year-end deadline or January, whatever it ends up being, but good. Okay. Well, I'm happy people are putting thought into it and that we weren't swamped with a whole bunch of alternatives. These are probably thoughtful inputs, modifying some of the inputs that we've already gotten.
I think that shows that the people were happy with the alternatives that were originally created.
Right.
The modifications.
Great, good. again, I appreciate everything that Joe, you're doing to keep the process on track, and all the members are behaving like adults and doing the analysis and bringing it forward.
Arlene, I gotta say, I'm just showing up. Everybody else is doing the work.
Okay. I understand, Joe, but being a leader is hard work too. Okay, we also had the budget committee meet, so we'll move on to that. And they are proposing that we keep things flat in terms of the total. And Dr. Cooper, you headed up that effort, is that right?
Yes, I did. And Jeanette could probably take us quickly through the details on this year's budget and then what we're proposing next year. And then I'll finish with a few comments.
Okay, great. Jeanette?
Everyone should have received a copy of the 2021 budget via email. And the increase showed a slight increase in the benefits and then a decrease in the insurance and taxes. The taxes decrease and the insurance, our DNO is no longer a high amount. Over the years, it's gone down significantly, and the taxes remain the same. Are there any questions?
Yes, so the nature of the benefits increase, I noticed that we're keeping salaries flat, and I think there had been an error in the number last year, and that's been corrected.
Yes, for the benefits.
For the benefits, okay. So is that the nature of the benefits increase, or is there an actual increase?
There's an actual increase of 3% that the committee approved.
And the nature of those benefits? Vacation time, education, what is it?
401k, health insurance, that stuff.
Okay, okay. And Jeanette, I know you've been very gracious in terms of your salary, and I'm sure Dr. Cooper is aware of that as well. Let's make sure as an organization that we are doing things appropriately in today's job market. And with that intro, I'll let Dr. Cooper lead us through then the final part of this.
Yes, thank you. We did, to sum it up quickly, we voted a 3% salary increase and a 3% benefit increase.
But that's not what's shown in the budget document.
The budget document shows the 115, which includes 2 employees, but I'm the only employee. That's always been there. It
Okay.
hasn't changed.
So it's the slack between the two. Okay,
Right, we're not spending up to that amount, but
right.
we've put it in there in case we had to hire some additional help,
Mhm.
which we haven't had to do. And it's, but I think what's important is the budget committee, to the person first, all conversations was unanimous in feeling that Jeanette certainly deserves this increase. And to a person, went around and really sang her accolades on the job she's done. One of our members on the budget committee was first time been on there and a newer member, and just said too, you can always call her, you get an answer, you get follow through. And Jeanette, how many years now you've been here? 20?
Yes.
Yeah, you're not looking any older. So, and some history in the past, we had gone sometimes a couple years with no increase for her. And I believe last year, the budget committee and we had discussed that we were going to try to do something every year so we don't feel we have to do a big catch up on any of those items. So the 3% was unanimously approved, and I think rightly so. And it's all included in the budget there. And that's my comments. If anyone else has anything and want to say something good, it'd be a nice time to tell her.
Comments, anyone? I think we often forget all the behind the scenes work that Jeanette does, whether it's being the collector of emails from Gene Spanos or taking care of resident phone calls. I know a resident called my office from Park Ridge last week wondering if he qualified for sound installation. Luckily, my Doreen sent it to our Jeanette, and I know it'll be taken care of appropriately. There's just an awful lot of work that's going on. And I think because of the fact that we're sort of a sub-budget under CDA, it's important that we keep that salary contingency, I'll call it, in there, because we really don't know once Black Quiet is in full gear, you know, all of the regulatory things we might have to do or any future FAA reviews. Winding up sound insulation, we really don't know if we are going to need some additional administrative help. So the fact that we're able to stay within the total budget, which is not changing, is really critical. And I know Jeanette does a good job of keeping up for all of our other expenditures. So do we need, we need to approve that here as the executive before it moves on?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve what's been presented as the draft 2021 budget?
I'll move so.
Thank you.
Second.
And we have a second. Okay. Any further discussion? Let's take a roll call vote, please.
Mayor Jurasek,
Yes.
Joe Nunzio,
Yes.
Dr. Cooper,
Yes.
Evan Summers,
Yes.
Dennis Ryan,
Yes.
Brian Gazer,
Yes.
Superintendent Cassell.
Volume not working?
I can hear you now. And Aaron Frame.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, great. And thank you, Jeanette. It's been so long since I've seen you. It's like we got to go out for lunch at least to be in person. Okay, let's look at the draft meeting agenda for Friday. It looks like our featured speaker is planned to be Rebecca McPherson, who will give us the outreach for 9C27C, and that's probably a good time then for our FAQs to be featured as well, Aaron.
Yes.
And so I see that under your portion of the report, Aaron, you do the FAQs, and then Rebecca will probably show us the video and field any questions.
Yeah, Jeanette, has Rebecca indicated whether she wanted us to play the video or is she just going to speak?
He's going to speak.
Okay.
So let's make sure when we send the agenda out that we've got a link to the video in the transmittal email or in the agenda itself so that people can view it. It would be a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah, we show it during the meeting. It's so complex that it might get us a little off track. So I would encourage people to watch it even before the meeting. Okay, and then it looks like everything else is pretty routine. I think as we've indicated, our big work product, besides the runway outreach, is the Fly Quiet work and the IGA work, and we'll have to approve the budget this time around as well. Those are our main topics, and the government, I'm sorry, the IGA is covered here as well on the agenda. So any comments on the agenda?
Nope.
Okay, is there a motion to approve this draft agenda as presented?
So moved.
Thank you. Dr. Cooper?
Second.
Second from Jonas. Okay, Jeanette, let's vote on the agenda.
Mayor Jurasek,
Yes.
Joe Nunzio,
Yes.
Dr. Cooper,
Yes.
Evan Summers,
Yes.
Dennis Ryan,
Yes.
Brian Gazer,
Yes.
Superintendent Cassell,
Yes.
and Aaron Frame.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the draft meeting calendar has been out, and I know, Aaron, you wanted to make some changes to it, or we're going to look at it. Have you been able to make any adjustments?
I did. I sent some notes to Jeanette, and Jeanette, I think you incorporated those, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
Okay.
so Mayor, we're good. And what you'll notice is that when you look at any 1 month, Mayor, the goal was simply to spread out the meetings so that we were trying to get one public meeting in an individual week as opposed to two. I think having exec in the main meeting is just fine, but we were trying to avoid instances where we had residential and technical in the same week or something else and Fly Quiet. It helps us spread out the work. And so I think Jeanette's done that. So this looks great.
Good. So we're ready to take a vote on that then and publish that calendar for the following year. Good. And so that'll be a vote by the whole commission. Any other comments from the group on the calendar? Okay, before we go to comments from the audience, Ernie, I understand you had a comment for us?
Yes, good morning, Mayor. Thank you. And good morning, everyone. Just two very brief comments. One, I didn't realize that the purview of this organization was going to be giving consideration to closing a portion of the airfield at night. Since my esteemed colleague from Bensenville has discussed the potential closure of the South Airfield, for those of us that represent the north side of the airfield, I'd like to say we should give consideration to that as well. It would seem to actually be much more important, if you will, that you give consideration to a north airfield closure because of the issues that we've already encountered in regards to the movement of air traffic, as well as ground vehicles back and forth from the terminal to maintenance to the GRE and so forth. So I think if we're going to give consideration to a south airfield closure, I think this body also ought to give consideration to the north airfield. My second point is,
may I respond?
Certainly.
Ernie,
Go ahead, Aaron.
I don't want anybody to get any ideas that, you know, this is a sure thing, right? We are considering which runways to close in a fly quiet configuration context. So let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Again, I need to talk to the airlines and I need to talk to the commissioner. So just please, you know, understand that this is a concept and has not yet been vetted with other stakeholders.
Aaron, I completely understand and I concur with your comments and I appreciate them. I just don't want to let it be said that we're talking about one portion of the airfield when in fact we really should be considering the entire airfield. And I know you appreciate that and I do as well. I just didn't want to leave it go without comment from a representative that covers the northeastern portion of the constituency that deals with the airport. I want to put it on the record, if you will, and I appreciate that.
Understood.
May I address that comment as well?
Sure, go ahead.
I don't think at any time I have given any indication that I would be opposed to closing northern runways. We just simply know that 10L is overutilized when we're using the crosswind runways. And so to close that down prohibits that from being overused. That's all I've ever said, and I wouldn't object to closing down north runways.
Okay, Ernie, I fully understand your need to make that statement. I think to be a fully represent your constituents, it was the right thing to do. I would further refine the thought process, though. It's not really an airfield closure, as Evan pointed out. It's a runway closure, which happens to result in, you know, certain larger impacts. But we are looking at the usage of individual runways. But again, balance between north and south. So I take your comment in good faith.
Madam Chair, I appreciate that. Then I do have one other second comment, and Chairman Annunzio of Fly Quiet mentioned it. Yes, I have put a proposal out there. It's not a Park Ridge proposal. It's just a proposal. My understanding is that proposal, Joe, is not going to be presented because I didn't adhere to the quote unquote issue of utilizing all of the available runways. As we know, nearly 2 years ago, we modified that criteria at Alderman Dunn's request to put in the statement at a minimum to utilize all of the interior parallels with the exception of the furthest north and furthest south runways, which can't be utilized because we don't staff those towers. The FAA does not staff those towers at night, and the crosswinds, the two 422s. I put a proposal out there that didn't include the 422s except under dire meteorological conditions that would force their utilization. As a result, my understanding, Joe, is that proposal is not going to be presented to the committee, which I understand, but then that begs the question, why is this body going to hamstring itself to having, quote unquote, having to utilize all of the available runways in any type of rotation package? It would seem that we should be just a tad more open-minded than that and say, let's take a look at all proposals. Maybe the appropriate proposal is to simply use the 422s all the time. I put a proposal out there that I've been informed will not be presented to the entire committee, and I understand that. But then that begs the question, should we really hamstring ourselves to simply utilizing the quote unquote at a minimum, which is not really at a minimum, it's at a maximum. It's all the runways that we have available to us. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I understand the decision that was made, but it does beg the question, do we really want to approach it in that way? Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Joe, I'm assuming that as the chair, you've given this adequate thought. We do have criteria that have been established. Perhaps it could just be mentioned that it was submitted and but it failed on a particular criteria.
I think it's also important that it's also on the record too.
It's also what?
It's on the record that it was submitted
Yes, okay.
and that it does exist.
Point of order on that. So I've held off on submitting a 422 exclusive rotation, not rotation, the 422 exclusive configuration because it does not meet the guidelines. Should I submit the 422 configuration just to have it on the record, so to speak?
Madam Chair, can I add a comment?
Sure, Aaron.
Everybody is welcome to submit proposals. The CDA is not spending resources on proposals that do not meet the committee's intent. The committee voted to use 6 runways at night. I would be wasting time and money if I looked at alternatives that did not meet the committee's intent. But I have no objection to people turning them in. It's just, I can't be getting mixed messages. I can't analyze something that the committee has told me specifically not to do.
You know, I think it's important so that everybody's got a clear understanding that, Ernie, your proposal, Evan, your proposal, that the committee at least be aware that it's out there. However, it will not further an analysis because it doesn't meet predetermined criteria. I agree with Aaron. We can't have everything coming out of the framework and coming out of the out of wherever here. Otherwise, that invalidates the whole initial criteria that were put together. So if you believe you just want to have it on the record, Evan, go ahead and submit it.
I don't. I do. The last thing I want to do is ever waste government servants' time. So I'm not making that proposal. I'm just saying I withheld making that proposal because it didn't meet the guidelines. So to put something on the record that doesn't meet the guidelines seems like a waste.
Well, it was submitted. I think you need to document that it was submitted. And then it was not put forward in the analysis for the following reason.
Okay, well, I'm just making clear, I am not submitting the 422s because it doesn't make sense.
I get it.
It seems to me this discussion doesn't even mean anything until we make a determination that it's impossible to use all the runways. Or it's so ridiculous that even consider using all the runways that it's just a fiction to say that we're using all the runways. Then we're going to have to step back and look at other alternatives. We're not even close to there yet, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, Joe, you've heard everybody's input on this. I trust you and your lawyerly skills to be able to sort all this out and move us forward. So thank you.
We're on a path that we're taking right now. And the only way we deviate from that path is if that path simply doesn't make sense anymore at a practical level.
Let's move along on the designated path and see where it leads, Joe. That's what I hear you saying. Okay. Thank you, Ernie. Any other comments from the commissioners here? Otherwise, we will go to the audience. Mr. Dwyer, do you have any comments today?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just to clarify on our submittal, we were still looking at some revisions based on the trickle of information from the FAA. We need some feedback from CDA or Landman Brown to be able to formalize that. And Joe moved the date up a day. I thought it was October 1st. Now it's September 30th.
Well, no. The last day you could submit is September 30th because you can't submit anything on October.
Okay, so it is the 30th. So I guess my question is we just need probably 5 or 10 minutes of CDA's or Landman Brown's time just to go over those minor tweaks. And I guess to Ernie's point and looking forward, even though this is the deadline for submittals, that we leave the process open to these refinements as information from the FAA comes in, that we don't predetermine this is the only alternative we're going to move forward with before we have all the information. So I hope that that's the way we'll continue. So thank you.
All right, thanks. I don't have any indication that there is any other comment from the audience. So our next executive meeting will be November 2nd, and our full commission meeting is this Friday, October 2nd. So do we have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'll move, so.
For a second?
Second,
Okay, thanks, Ray. Jeanette, take the roll call, please. And I
Mayor
believe
Harrison?
everybody's been able to hear and participate. Yes.
Joe Nunzio,
Yes.
Dr. Cooper,
yes.
Evan Summers,
Yes and yes.
Dennis Ryan,
Yes.
Brian Gazer,
Yes and yes.
Superintendent Cassell had to come off, and Aaron Frame.
Yes and yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Appreciate the hard work.
Goodbye.
Have a good
Bye.
day.
Bye.